So my topic, how will study abroad and student exchange evolve during and after COVID-19? So first, today's presentation have two parts. The first part is Japan's policies and trends on study abroad. Okay. And then after this first session, I also want have a chance you ask me to some questions if you don't understand well, or if you have some opinion or some idea about the things, and then move on to the second part about international education during and then post COVID-19. So in Japan, studying abroad used to be a personal choice with limited government support. Study abroad used to mean studying in the US for a long time for a degree, just like I did, and my colleague Jin Abe, the graduate of Western Michigan University, we studied in the US a long time and then got a degree. Then studying foreign language abroad was developed by private university and Asians. So one side, the study abroad degree for more personal choice, and then not much support from the government. But at the same time, university students, college students study abroad, and those are programs developed by university or Asians. Okay. So this is a government policy. So from the mid-2000s, the Japanese government has come to place greater importance on support for Japanese students studying abroad. This policy changes is tied in with a long economic slump in Japan. The MEXT means Ministry of Education. MEXT has moved rapidly to promote greater outbound mobility in order to reverse the trend of a prolonged decrease in the number of Japanese study abroad students. Vigorous promotion of outbound mobility has been carried out, backed by the robust funding. This is a center part in the middle, I show that one. The government is a Japan revitalization strategy was started in 2014. 2013 is the original one, 2014 revised one under Abe administration. The one side is a 3,000 international student plan, but this I'm going to talk about more policy issue, but it's shifting to the more outbound mobility. So the reason is that as a result of the great shock that came with the pointing out of Japanese people's poor English ability, low TOEFL score, and of the decreasing the number of Japanese going to study abroad for a degree since 2004. Sometimes we call the inward looking, the Japanese now. It turned into the argument that globalization of Japanese students should be prioritized. The MEXT, Ministry of Education, turned their ladder toward the direction of policies for encouraging Japanese people to study abroad and developing Japanese students into global human resources. Go Global Japan project is the first Japanese government and Ministry of Education project for the promote study abroad through Japanese university. Inter-university exchange project is also, this is not for study abroad, but more student exchange support program. The ultimate goal of this policy shift with newly created grants for universities and scholarship programs for outbound students is to revitalize, as I said, Japanese economy. More specifically, it is for Japanese graduates to work for Japanese companies that will do business around the world, enabling these to become more successful. Powerful economic pressure and support from business circles favor these policy initiatives. The demand for global human resources is growing, and universities are being asked to cultivate such human resources. So increasing need for global-minded workforce, competent workforce, but it's not really global citizen. In the world, more we talk about global citizen, but the Japanese case, as I said, is more related to the economic revival. So economic policy. That's why it says a global-minded workforce. Then next. So this is a series of those government policy initiatives for internationalizing Japanese higher education and also numerical target. So when you see this one, the red circle, the place is for outbound mobility or mutual exchange, two-way exchange. And as I said, the government Japan revitalization strategy set the numerical target, 120,000 study abroad in total by 2020. And then inter-university exchange project, two-way mobility. So those this two-way mobility each year from since 2011, they focus on the geographical area. Sometimes Asia, sometimes North America, sometimes Europe. So this is a series of funding, competitive funding for universities. And then they also set numerical target, how many outbound, how many inbound students. So this IUEP program, 2011 to 2018, 15,000 outbound students and 13,000 students inbound as a result. So, and then Go Global Japan, as I said before, this is a very much focus on outbound mobility, type A, type B, university-wide program, faculty or school-based program. It's also 5 years. Now also we have a top global university project. This is also have the comprehensive internationalization project, and those university has also numerical target to increase the outbound mobility as well as inbound mobility students. So the government increased the scholarships available for individual students to expand the range of study abroad participants, and provided competitive funds for university to develop outbound mobility programs and the support system in order to broaden the range of study abroad options. The Ministry of Education MEXT the budget for study abroad scholarship was expanded greatly from 600 million yen in 2009 to 2.2 billion yen in 2015, and stands at 8.18 billion yen in 2020. This scholarship can be granted to students who participate in one of their university's study abroad programs with a duration of 8 days to 1 year. The number of recipients dramatically increased from 740 to 20,000. Moreover, a small number of scholarships for studying abroad for a degree were added within the JASO, Japan Student Services Organization scholarship programs. 252 scholarships to study abroad for postgraduate degrees and 164 undergraduate degrees are provided in 2020. So this short-term program, as I said, if you study abroad for more than 8 days, basically 1 week, the government give you money, you're eligible for applying for the scholarship. It never happened in my generation. My generation never thought about government to give us money to study just for a week or 10 days. And this one greatly expanded the participants of the study abroad. So this is also another, this is diagram. The Japanese government is increasing the budget to expand the study abroad programs, and the participants, such as I said, inter-university exchange project, support for universities, and for scholarship for study abroad students. So right-hand side here, this is support for students, as I mentioned, those scholarship. Left-hand side, as I also mentioned, IUEP and Top Global University Project, those money to universities. So universities, this is a so-called competitive funding program. So they have to apply. Then the selection committee choose the university to give the fund. In 2014, the government established another scholarship program called Tobitate, Leap for Tomorrow, Young Ambassador Program. This is a public-private partnership scholarship and encouraging students study abroad with funding from both government and the private companies. Tobitate scholarship are intended for students who study abroad for periods varying from 28 days to 2 years. By March 2020, 5,630 students of university and colleges and 2,685 high school students had studied abroad with Tobitate Scholarship. So Japan revitalization strategy has another numerical target for high school students studying abroad, 60,000, 30,000 to 60,000, doubling by 2020. So that also this numerical target or policy is tied with this Tobitate Scholarship. So now I'm going to another number of scholarship, not scholarships, study abroad students, downward trend and upward trend. It's a different view of study abroad of Japanese students. This one is a host countries data compiled by Ministry of Education, MEXT, number of Japanese study abroad students. This is a long term because can you see that this source MEXT compiled data from II is opened, what is the US data, OECD's data, UNESCO's data. So those host countries basically count international students based on visa, so long term. So those trend is peak 2004, 82,000 students, 83,000 students, now going down to the 50,000 students. 58,000 students. Long-term, mainly degree-seeking study abroad numbers peaked at 83,000 students in 2004 and had fallen by 33% to 58,000 in 2017. So this long-term, as I said, basically was study abroad for degree type, long-term study abroad. 1/3 of them, they come to United States for study abroad. So study abroad for degree, still US is the most popular destination. But at the same time, you can tell this blue number, these two blue numbers with parentheses, this is a decrease from the peak. So increase or decrease from 2004, the peak of the study abroad number, to 2017. So this number and that number is very similar. So it means study abroad, study to US for degree is decreased, that level. And then this one is a short-term study abroad. This is a JASO, Japan Student Service Organization, JASO data collected from Japanese higher education institutions, number of non-degree Japanese students studying abroad duration. So those students enrolled in Japanese university and they study abroad for short term, this number is increasing dramatically. However, due to these policy, as I mentioned, those policy initiatives, the number of short-term study abroad students at Japanese university is rapidly increasing, around 36,000 in 2009, rising to more than 158,000 by 2018, nearly tripling. The number of those studying abroad for less than a month, in particular, grew significantly, about 76,000 students, 66% of total in 2018. Those students studying abroad for less than 6 months accounted for 86%. So, and then those short-term non-degree Japanese students studying abroad destination, US, yes, still most popular destination, but only 17% of the total. And then you can see more Asian countries, South Korea, China, Thailand, Philippines, and then also others is also a large number. So the short-term program is more diversifying the destination of study abroad. This is also kind of unique statistics, shifting from long-term study abroad for degree to shift to short-term study abroad for credit. So this blue data from IIE, US data, this Japanese student in the US. 2010, 21,000, now becoming 18,000. And then this one is JASO, Japanese data, study abroad data, is becoming nearly double. And 2010, those study abroad for degree counted by US side is twice as many as those people who study for short term. Now, almost the same number, 50 and 50. So like me, I go to a conference and then or come to US and then US side say, wow, the Japanese students study abroad now decreasing. But from our point of view, it's opposite. Japanese student coming to US is increasing because it's two different types of study abroad. Also, study in English is still popular for Japanese. So this Japanese student enrolled at the intensive English program are not included, not counted to this statistic. So besides this statistic, also still every year more than 10,000 Japanese students coming to the US to study English. So trends of study abroad in Japan. Japanese studying abroad is shorter, closer, and cheaper. So it means more students going to our neighboring countries, Asian countries, becoming a very popular study abroad destination. Study abroad by Japanese students shifting from study abroad for degree to study abroad credit. This reflects the growing global trend among college students, especially in industrialized countries. So US, of course, is a study abroad means short term. The degree is very rare. UK, Canada, Australia, European countries the same. Japan was uniquely one of the industrialized countries. Still, we had a large number of degree-seeking study abroad students, but we are becoming more one of those industrialized countries study abroad model. So MEXT support for university study abroad programs and scholarship for students has expanded range of study abroad participants. Although those are aforementioned study abroad scholarship for students and grants for universities were not meant for short-term programs, universities specifically increased opportunity for short-term up to 1 month study abroad because for a number of reasons, they appear to be preferred by Japanese students. Also, those short-term study abroad programs becoming a promotional tool for recruiting students, high school students. International program study abroad can attract quite many high school students. Short duration of the program prevents time conflict with other activities, such as looking for a graduate position at the Japanese companies, typically conducted during a certain period in a year, preparing for national qualification exam, also participating in the extracurricular activities such as those sports activity, club activities. Also, short-term study abroad programs tend to require lower participation fees than longer programs. And then, moreover, the short-term programs abroad that focus on foreign language learning at the basic level are popular among Japanese students because many students do not have sufficient foreign language skill to participate in longer exchange programs where they are required to take courses at the partner university together with local students. So as I said, language studies, intercultural learning is still popular for Japanese students for short-term study abroad. So, policy evaluation. Although participation is participating in a short-term study abroad program can be a step for inward-looking students toward becoming more open to other cultures. Short-term study abroad programs are considered too short to enhance the students' foreign language and cross-cultural competencies compared to long-term programs in Japan, where degree-seeking study abroad was a norm before. Similar observations have been made in the US and other countries. According to the policy evaluation of the promotion of global human resources development carried out by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, the perception on the corporate side is that a study abroad period of 6 months or more is necessary in order to develop various skills, including language ability, intercultural understanding, and the ability to accept the diversity of value barriers. The evaluation, therefore, pointed out the mismatch between the increase in study abroad by university students and the corporate needs for the employment. MEXT support program has expanded the range of study abroad participants, as I said before. But how can university encourage students to aim for the heights of success after their first short-term study abroad experiences? This issue becomes even more important when we consider the return on the investment for study abroad. As the opportunities for students to gain study abroad experiences increase, universities are moving toward considering the whole period which students spend with them from matriculation, the first year, to graduation, fourth year, setting out a roadmap which keeps in mind the stratification of study abroad programs and the progression routes relating to study abroad to future career or further study. So employability is becoming also issue of the study abroad outcome. Issues in study abroad is quality. So in some English-speaking country, I think US also too, study abroad for credit or something worthy of mentioning in their CV resume is already the norm, with much importance attended to the short-term study abroad positioned as a part of the university curriculum as an education abroad, and to the learning of each individual student, leading to the development of learning abroad, made up of diverse overseas experiences, including volunteer work, service learning, and internship. There is a new worldwide trend to assess the learning outcomes of study abroad and the impact on students' lives and careers, including some international collaborative projects such as IBI or BEVI, Baby Project. Although the career-related impact of short-term study abroad for credit is smaller than that of the long-term study abroad for degree, and such short-term studies abroad lack the impact at the time of recruitment by employers. Short-term overseas programs are still important for the improvement of students' employability and career-related education. Considering the continuously increasing the participation in short-term study abroad programs, it becomes imperative to examine the relationship between the outcome of short-term study abroad and the career-related benefits. At the same time, it will be necessary to enhance the quality of short-term programs. So there is increasing the pressure from the government, business, and the taxpayers for Japanese university to also implement such initiatives in order to demonstrate accountability for the next large amount of grants and the scholarships provided for short-term study abroad programs. In order to leverage the acquired skills of study abroad returnees at the Japanese company, employers also need to reform their hiring and employment system to utilize those skills effectively in their jobs. For instance, by introducing a job-based employment system. In other words, companies should give employees with study abroad experience more opportunities to use the skills acquired overseas to increase their job satisfaction and motivation. And this comment is Deguchi, Ritsumeikan APU's president, first Japanese university president, has a strong business background, very few academic background. He harshly criticized, even though he was a businessman, he now harshly criticized Japanese companies' hiring process. Those only once a year, Japanese job hunting season is only once a year for senior students, simultaneous recruiting of new graduates. And then also looking at, he says, looking at the only 5 things about applicant company are checking. One is the admission level of the university, how difficult the university are, not the end of the result, how much he or she studied, more the rigorousness of the university, the entry level, obedience, patience, cooperativeness, and compliance. And then also this is as I said, learning outcome assessment of study abroad. This is developed by Australian scholars. So this is a process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 study abroad, preparation during the program and the outcome, and then impact. But very often, Japanese practice, first we create a short-term program. And after that, we are thinking, what is the outcomes? What is the impact? We think about later. But in order to increase the quality of short-term program, we have to first determine the learning outcome first, and then think about the education learning method. So it means the flow is from 1 to 6. But as an international educator, we have to create a program based on first think about impact or outcomes and how we can design the program to achieve those outcomes or produce, bring up those impact. But it's not really common. So this is so-called evidence-based policy making, EBPM, evidence-based policy making, input, process, activities, outcomes, and impact. This is a flow. But when we look at create the design or develop the program, you have to go from 6 to 1. So go back to the employment. Maybe some of you are familiar, Japanese students, those job hunting season, they all look the same kind of clothes and suits. They go to the companies. You can see those students in downtown Tokyo and Osaka. So, and then this part is very unique. It says companies do not intend to hire students who stand out with their appearance and unique character. They are checking to see if you are well-groomed and dressed based on the social common sense. There's no need to dress yourself up in expensive items. So, but it's a funny thing. Diversity is now buzzword in Japan. And then we are saying the study abroad is your intercultural communication skills and then intercultural understanding. But to come back to Japan, everybody must be like this. And then the result is like this. This is the first day of the Japan Airlines ceremony for those people who are newly hired. So everybody looks same. So that's very ironic situation. So this is the policy part. Do you have any questions so far or anything, comment? I'm happy to hear something from your side. If not, I'm moving on to the more recent movement. Is it okay? So, okay. So from now, study abroad and student exchange during and after COVID-19. So COVID-19 crisis is now we're in the middle, everywhere in the world. And then this COVID-19 is a huge impact affecting higher education. Pre-existing problems have become more apparent than before by the COVID-19 crisis. In terms of international education, international student mobility is still the main focus of the policy and the practice of international education. But as long as we are doing this way, this international education based on mobility is only served for limited number of students. Increasing the carbon emissions generated by student air travel. Shorter program, so many students study abroad means is a bad effect to the environment. So that is also becoming an issue, even before COVID-19, and now becoming more apparent. How can international educators cope with the situation and adapt to the new normal with COVID-19? So issues in study abroad caused by COVID-19 crisis. Canceled study abroad programs. All study abroad programs canceled. In Japan, there are 44 universities that have compulsory study abroad. They have been very heavily affected. So, and then now we are implementing study abroad alternatives, mainly those 4 types: virtual mobility, virtual student study abroad, virtual student exchange. So without physical mobility, online, and then student taking the classes, partner universities, students study abroad, but not really going to study abroad, using the online ICT technology taking classes, virtual exchange, also COIL, collaborative online international learning, blended hybrid learning, face-to-face and online instruction that combined together. So those 4 types, it becoming now is popular all over the world. However, in Japan, we in the problem, very little experience. There's very little experience with online or distance education, including lifelong learning. Japanese universities so much focus on the face-to-face and on-campus teaching. American university, large number of non-traditional students, and then distance learning is quite popular. And then, however, the Japan's case, with so much focusing on the students age from 18 to 22 or 23. So everybody comes to the classroom and then face-to-face. So online teaching and learning was not really standard in Japan. So that is a problem. We're so much behind online and the distance learning. The implementation and the quality of international online teaching and learning as an emergency response. So we are quickly doing, but still quality is not really good. Growing inequalities among universities regarding resources. Example, the human resources to respond to the crisis. So big university, large university, some private universities, rich one, they have a resource. But the small university do not have enough resources. It's very difficult to implement those new modality of international education through online. Information highway roadblock in Japan. This is from the book is published in 2003, but basically no fundamental change in approach at most university is still now. So those tendency to prioritize administrative regulation over effective implementation, a focus on precedent that can block innovation or reform, a regulatory focus that emphasizes the rather static perspective of technology, a general lack of IT personnel skilled in educational technology application that might support implementation in pedagogy and research. So those problems are pointed out, still is our problem. And then paper, kami and kami. Same pronunciation in Japan. So we still really respect this paper, not really those digital document. That is also the problem. This is a recent MEXT survey. Survey conducted for the university who received the government funds, as I mentioned, IUEP program or top global university. They said more than 80% of Japanese universities now aim to change to blended program. So for the post COVID-19. And then this is also the experience with COVID-19. How do you perceive this phenomena, and how do you think we shall to prepare for its risks, expanding opportunity for educational exchange via online, resetting the value of study abroad, local learning, considering the quality assurance of education and research. So now is also we are discussing what is really study abroad. So this is another also issue. It says reshaping, remodeling internationalization or international education. Need to redefine study abroad. What is really study abroad? What is the distinctive value of study abroad? So emerging practices of international education, as I said, those online virtual study abroad and exchange. Tohoku University among national university is leading about this online project. They have a big global project. This blue part, I'll give you distribute later of my speech. They have the link, so you can click, including Tohoku University Japanese programs online. Kwansei Gakuin University also they quickly moved to the online international education programs. More than 300 students participate in online study abroad, online education program abroad. And also lecture exchange or cross-listing courses among partner universities becoming the new practice. Tsukuba University has so-called course jukebox, kind of jukebox. The partner university, including Tsukuba, they offer the courses on online cyberspace. The students of those partner university can take those courses. And also consortium-based programs, UMAP, APRU, IRU, or those university consortium, they are offering now online courses, like a virtual exchange program. COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, initiated by Kansai Universities, IIGE. This is also becoming popular, and including virtual exchange and COIL Lab. This is US-Japan program with American Council of Education. This VE COIL Lab is a training program, workshop program for educators to start COIL program. So COIL is Inter-University Exchange Programs, IUEP programs. One of the programs, Japan-US COIL, was started in before COVID-19. So this, as I show you, this one, this US COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning. So started 2018. So those universities now is really kind of helping other universities or showing the model how to start, how to implement online education, collaborative online international learning. So VE, Virtual Exchange COIL Lab, is a very popular workshop. Okay, challenges of virtual student exchange, virtual mobility, virtual student exchange, So virtual mobility is a shift from the expansion approach to the concentration approach with strategic partner. What does it mean? This means before COVID-19, many universities signed the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, sign student exchange 2 and 2, 3 and 3, and 4 and 4. Waseda says more than 400 partner university. Keio says more than 300 partner universities. Just sign and then send out the student, and then also accept the student from partners. So this expansion approach doesn't work for those virtual mobility. We have to really focus on strategic partners. It's difficult to open up all the partner schools. So now universities are choosing strategic partners for virtual mobility. Virtual exchange and COIL, it's a difficult thing. It takes time to build a trust with an instructor overseas. Means trust between Japanese instructor and the instructor abroad. So it means shift from the institutional level approach to the faculty or course level approach. As I said, usually student exchange, business school has their own one, but basically university and university exchange program. Sign MOUs, exchange student. Now becoming more course by course, course and course. So it means instructors cross the border. We have to build the trust and then collaboratively work. Together, we draw the syllabus together, design the course together, work together. So it's, and also this virtual student exchange can expand the range of participants, but there is a language barrier. It's this online student exchange, you don't have to pay for travel, you don't have to move, just come to the classroom, even can take the class from home. So many students can join. The problem in the Japan side, language barrier. English proficiency of Japanese students is still not good enough, not strong enough. Time zone differences. This is very challenging. Just now I'm talking nearly midnight. So now more and more those virtual student exchange with neighboring countries, and also Australia, the same time zone. Difference is academic calendars. Japanese academic calendar is very unique, commences in April, ends in March, and those academic calendar is also difficult. And the learning management system. So Moodle is very popular, but many Japanese universities using the Japanese learning management system. If learning management is different, very difficult to conduct COIL program. As I said, also resource and capacity building. This is very difficult because professional staff of ICT and international education is not so many in Japan. Japanese case, university staff are generalists, not the specialists. So they are rotated every 4 years or 5 years in different sections. There are not many of those specialists. US's case is maybe not a difficult thing because IT specialists, international education specialists, they can help. But it's not that way in Japan. So that's why, as I said, we need more people involved. A core of international education shift from international student mobility to internationalization at home and internationalization of curriculum. This is also now becoming a new trend, and then we are becoming a buzzword, internationalization at home and internationalization of the curriculum. And also visit the meaning of study abroad, recognizing the significance of study abroad, or maybe define even study abroad. This is coming from the book, is Asada's publication about American student study in Japan. This in 2019 is published. The international experience of not only being abroad, but being integrating into daily life while studying abroad in the host country. It is the experience of living and adjusting to a new language and the culture that lays the participants' comparative awareness of the world through the lens of the host country, while nurturing self-discovery and development of personal values and attitudes. I like this definition or explanation of the study abroad. I like it. Then considering this basic concept of study abroad, so what is the future scenario of the future prospect of the study abroad? So lots of questions about the study abroad for the future. Will there be a decline in the experience-oriented, process-oriented short-term study abroad? Short-term study abroad has increased an opportunity to change one's life. Very often people say study abroad is a life-changing experience. And however, that way is study abroad is more process-oriented, or it's not outcome-oriented. Very often study abroad itself, study abroad is supposed to be a means of intercultural learning or international education, but it often becomes the purpose or becomes the end. Means study abroad, just doing that is enough. They don't really concern about the outcome, but it's now maybe changing. Will demand for long-term learning outcome-oriented study abroad increase, or becoming back to the old style of Japanese student study abroad? More long-term case, it's more outcome-based, outcome-oriented. However, I think this long-term might be popular, but not more individual student study abroad. More university, they collaborate with each other. They create double degree programs, joint degree program, or training or articulation program. Those are becoming more popular, I guess. So this is another scenario. Also, will short-term study abroad become long-term learning eventually, combined with blended hybrid learning? So before, even though study abroad itself, maybe some weeks, maybe less than 1 month, but before that, 1 term, 1 semester, they studied using blended those online teaching and learning, connect to the partner schools, and then go to the site 1 month, some weeks, come back. After that, continue to study using those online learning. they eventually become more long-term running. Maybe this is also the scenario. Will short-term study abroad focus on more experience-oriented? I'm giving some kind of contradictory message because I myself am a bit confused. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just trying to find many ways. Maybe more experience-oriented, such as internships, volunteer work, service learning, field work, rather than language and academic study. More get out from the classroom, get to the field. This type might be popular. To what extent is cross-cultural learning possible through online and on-campus education without mobility? This is still, I don't know. Those online or virtual learning, virtual mobility has still lots of potential, but we still don't know. This is just a beginning seriously in the international level. So can online education be a sufficient alternative for acquiring cognitive skills through study abroad? What about non-cognitive skills? So some people say that as long as you want to acquire more cognitive skill, well, you don't have to go to other country. You don't have to go study abroad. You can study online. Maybe you can even use the MOOCs, those are enough. But what about cognitive skill, non-cognitive skill? Will the expansion of online inter-university collaboration make international education without mobility more common? So even international education, as I said before, that we are so much relying on mobility, but maybe in the future, study abroad is become more luxurious, and then more common mainstream, the international education modality is maybe online inter-university collaboration. So still don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I just wanted to share my thoughts, my idea with you. That's end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ota. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'd like to take some questions. If you have a question, please unmute yourself. And if you can, please start your video and ask your question. I know it's not easy to do online, but I'd like to wait whether you have comment or question.
Or even chat is fine. I can read.
Thank you, Dr. Ota, for a very insightful and informative talk. I have a question to ask. You mentioned towards the end of your talk, you mentioned about the future possibility dual degree programs, joint degree programs, and etc. And actually at Western Michigan University, we developed many such programs with different countries. But as I know, we don't have any such programs with Japanese universities, although we have numerous partner universities in Japan. So are there many such programs right now in Japan?
Yes, now it's increasing, especially STEM field. The reason is the STEM field is easy to match those curriculum. Very similar curriculum, STEM field, among in the world. So in fact, STEM field and especially engineering, double degree, joint degree increasing because another reason is the European Union. They are also working very hard to develop those double degree and joint degree programs. And many Japanese universities joined the Association of Double Degree Programs in STEM field in the European side. So that's it's rapidly developing such programs. A little bit slow, humanities and social sciences, but business schools now is they are eager to develop the double degree program. Yes. So now it's a maybe good time and then to discuss these things.
That's very interesting to hear, because here when we develop such programs, we found it's difficult for a STEM program, especially for engineering program, because their structure is very unique, and it's hard to match with other programs. But we did have many successful programs in humanities and business field.
Okay, maybe I have to mention one thing. I said the STEM field, but the focus are more master's program, not the bachelor's program. Because master's program is a 2 years program and then easy. But a bachelor's program, undergraduate it's a difficult, especially gen ed part and those things. It's very different depending on the country. So, but I'm also surprised you have many humanity and social science program, double degree and joint degree. It's amazing.
Hi, I have a question, but sorry, my device doesn't allow the camera. Is that to be okay to ask the questions? Hi, I work at the Vanderbilt University in US, which is in Tennessee, and we try to find the university that our students who are studying Japanese to go to Japan and do kind of like a semester or year program, but we always have this difficulty of this semester difference because many Japanese universities start in April and we start in September. So I think there was a movement in Japan that, you know, they may change the semester to like American or European standard, but is that movement still active, or is that not changing that much?
Unfortunately, in Japan, in the past, many times we discussed to change the academic calendar starting from April to September. Not successful at all. And then I think the new trend is becoming more, it's very strange for me. Semester, shifting from semester to quarter. So now many universities have a quarter program. And then also, this shift is also very unique, not completely shifting from semester basis, semester term to quarter term. We combine. So now it's more difficult. Hitotsubashi, my university, and many universities says, okay, this is a semester course. Means okay, April to end of July, or middle of September to January. This is semester-based courses. But inside also we have a quarter-based courses. So means April to end of May, and another one, second quarter, June to end of July, and then third quarter, September to October, and then fourth quarter is November to December or January, something like this. So it's not completely changing academic year from April to September. More we are having the, including quarter terms, but it's really confusing, I spent so much time for the exchange students orientation to explain this two types courses. But in fact, this system can admit exchange students from many schools.
I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, Dr. Oda. My name is M.K. Mohan. I'm the Director of International Enrollment at Western Michigan. I have a question based on, I saw from your presentation that the mobility of Japanese students to the US universities are kind of declining. Do you see or do you anticipate that this is going to reverse based on the change in government here at the federal level, and there is a more welcoming atmosphere now in the US? Do you anticipate a reversal of this declining?
That's a very tough question. A very tough question, because current situation, it's very difficult, but I personally, I hope more Japanese students going to US to study for a degree. The new trend, I would say, is that high school students choice to go to university is not really Japanese university. Now it's expanding more kind of study abroad type. That is a unique thing. Like my colleague Jin Abe and I often work for US education fair in September. And we see more and more high school study abroad counselors, especially Osaka and Tokyo, so-called international schools, but not really international school from outside the country, the Japanese international schools. And they are also increasing the number of their students going abroad, encouraging. And then it's used to be a kind of unique high school. It's not really common schools, but now very top-notch high school, private high school in Japan. They are sending the kids to the outside the country. That's also very unique things. They used to compete each other. How many students are accepted by University of Tokyo? Now, no, there's another indicator. How many students are accepted by their top schools outside the country? So there's one trend. And then also, I would say master's program, maybe more students going to abroad. And the reason is, as mentioned, is an employment system slowly changing from membership-based to job-based. So it means they really have to have skills and knowledge for a specific field. So that becoming more apparent, and the more people want to study abroad.
Thank you. I saw Yuki-san raised her hand.
Yes. I have one question. I can't put my video, but I am one of the, the unique one that it stand out that can't be really hired by a Japanese people, because I have a really blonde hair. But I'm sorry. I was just telling you. So I work for the university, but I'm leading a study abroad program for about 6 years by now, and so you are talking about the funding that Japanese students come to United States, and I was like, I think is that it's those a mutual experience. You're gonna send it to a lot of people from Japan to US, and the US student is not so much interested to go to Japan to do study abroad and stuff. And I think is the most important most biggest problem is that I think is the funding. And you talk about a lot of fundings that Japanese implement to Japanese students to come to United States. And then one of the problem I encounter here in United States is that American student will choose to Korea or China over Japan because those scholarship they provided to American students. So do they compensate those funding that they give it to United States, give it to Japan is, focusing to bring into more American students to come to Japan?
Thank you for the question. This is also, I didn't mention today for the international student coming to Japan, inbound student, but we have a scholarship for inbound students, especially exchange students. JASO, Japan Student Service Organization, they have a scholarship for inbound students to Japan, especially exchange students. So that is quite good numbers, 5,000, 6,000 students every year. So this is a good number, but not focusing on the US, worldwide. But it's a good scholarship, Yes.
Okay.
I think 80,000, 60,000 yen per month. That is a good scholarship.
I think it's the only choice that American student wanted to go to Japan was JET program. That's the biggest,
Yes.
you know, and then and a big support, but not really, as you say, it's career purpose, because they are not so much interested in teaching Japanese English in Japan, but they wanted to go to Japan. So it's more like I wanted to have those study abroad program that is provided more future career, like more programming or STEM fields, or technology, those kind of things, and also doctor as well, because there are tons of doctor nursing student who wanted to go to Japan. And then one of the things is that I collaborating with a Japanese Japanese hospital, that they were going to go to shadowing for just 1 day. But that's the really I just really a really good understanding of what you explained it about the short-term study abroad program. Thank you very much.
Yeah, graduate level is another story. Postgraduate study in Japan, and some large comprehensive universities, they have their own scholarship for those students at the graduate level, and also Japanese government scholarship, MEXT scholarship for kind of short term or 1 year. Those are so-called research students for graduate students. That is also a good one, very good one. Anyway, if you go to the JASO, JASS or JASO website, they have a comprehensive list of scholarships for students outside of Japan want to study in Japan. So that is a really good resource. But also your partner schools, you have to contact them. They may have those scholarships, especially STEM field case. STEM field postgraduate program, they may have their own programs. Also, it's kind of interesting thing. Japanese use the word internship, but it's a lab experience. Those STEM field, the students, STEM field department welcome postgraduate students from the world, not specifically from the US, but from the world, to get the lab experience. Because Japanese lab experience is kind of unique, because each lab is like a family. So they spend so much time, and then they do the, even undergraduate students can participate in those lab work. So that is quite common in Japan. I think we should more promote these things to the world.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes, sure, please.
So my name is Takara Tsuzaki. I'm a student, PhD student at the Western Michigan doing evaluation. I'm in Japan because I escaped from COVID-19. So I'm also at the midnight. And I have a question about, I am glad that you mentioned about evaluation, that double standards of trying to get the numbers, higher increase in numbers of students going abroad versus the quality of experiences the students are getting. We have to have the both the measurements going, both the qualitative and quantitative, making sure that we are achieving the impacts that we aim for. And do you think there's a lot of pressure or minds that are going into asking that kind of questions, because that relate to your bigger questions about the after the COVID-19 forecast? I think if we don't do the evaluation, or if we don't do the value inquisitions of why are we doing this, we won't be able to have a better answer for post-COVID solution.
Thank you for asking the question. Well, even you are wrapping up my presentation. Thank you so much for pointing out that, it's an important issue. Yes, as I said, Japanese government give us so much money to student and university to increase the number of study abroad students. And then those number games became very intensified. Okay, so university competing with each other, and then send so many students for short term. Okay, one is one. The student going to just Korea 4 days and then coming back is one. Another student going to US for a year, also one, right? So this is absolutely ridiculous, just competing the number of study abroad students. And then now we are understanding this is not really good. So we are shifting from quantitative expansion to quality improvement. That is for sure. That was sure. And especially this COVID-19 also questioning us, what is really study abroad? What is we have to pay attention? And then also now, as I said, online coming in, many things maybe can be substituted for those learning abroad is online. You don't have to move. But I feel sorry for you. You can't go back to the Western Michigan. But anyway, so those in the future, I would say, just study abroad, just going abroad, and just a good experience for the short term. These are not really increasing. More, I would say, decreasing. More, we are pay attention what you really learn, and then how the study abroad can increase employability is becoming more issue. But at the same time, as I show the pictures, company side also must change, because company side, even they're giving also scholarship to the students, those Tobitate scholarship, they're giving money. But when they come to the hiring process, they want to have the all same Japanese students coming to the company with the same suit, same kind of tie, same kind of bag. Its diversity is not really increasing in a sense. So I think this is whole things, not only higher education. This is a challenge and a question to the Japanese society, as I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And maybe we can take one more last question if there is someone who wants to ask.
While waiting for other questions, I will ask a brief question here. We know that in many cases, the experience of short-term study abroad will lead to the students' longer term of study abroad. So here in Western Michigan University, we are trying to put study abroad experience into the first year experience. So we're encouraging the first year students to participate in short-term experience. We even have program for students who will come in the fall to have a short-term experience in the summer. We've started them very early. So I'm wondering, since recent years, the short-term programs are increasing in Japan, what is the average years the student are? This first year, second year, third year?
Good question. Thank you very much. Some university, including Tohoku University, National University, Ritsumeikan, Asia Pacific University, those schools, now they have a study abroad for before coming to university, even. So they're coming to the school April, but the study abroad in March before coming to university. And then typically, as you mentioned, we encourage students for short-term program in the first year summer, or end of the first year, we say spring break in February, March. We promote the student to participate those study abroad programs for them. And then ideally, second year, third year, students go study abroad again for at least one semester. Ideally, 1 year, one academic year. This is kind of our things. And then sometimes fourth-year students, senior students go study internship abroad. Hitotsubashi's case, we have also internship in Spain, and the students go, we call the high-end study abroad program. So those kind of stratified or roadmap we are making, and then we are promoting those study abroad on campus. And then luckily, Hitotsubashi's case, we have a general support from alumni. So all the study abroad are supported, financially supported by Alumni Association. So that is a good thing. However, I have to mention one thing. This is the new things of the young Japanese. Okay, I also studied first time in only 1 month or two, one little more, I think 5 or 6 weeks, study English in Montana. So that time I couldn't speak English well. I was struggling with carrying out conversation in the host family, those things. So I decided to go to study abroad again. However, in Japanese student, often I'm myself running short-term study abroad program. Students come back to Japan. They said, Ota-san said, that's good memory, that's good things. That's enough. They don't go to the second one. They say, and I say, how was that you study abroad? And very often they say, well, I realized Japan is the best place to live. So they want to come back to the comfort zone. They said, you know, how can you say that? And they say, you know what, Japan, we have so many vending machines. We don't have to talk to anybody. I can buy anything I want. And then go to supermarket, go to convenience store. The change is always correct, so easy to buy. The shops are always open, right? And then and another things people, they said, maybe those people who have been to Japan can tell, we have a computerized toilet. You know, those things called the washlet. They like it. And once they go to the country, they don't have it, right? Those things. And the students say, well, study abroad is a kind of revisiting Japan, like defining Japan or something like that. For me, it's really, I feel sometimes this is unintended consequence, but it's happening. So I sometimes feel kind of sad is why I'm running those study abroad programs. Eventually students just realize Japan is the best place to live. And they decided to stay in the comfort zone. They said once is enough. So that is a kind of my dilemma.
I guess that's the disadvantage of short-term program, because the student won't have enough chance to actually get into the local culture and learn more about the local culture.
Yes, that's why I show the kind of definition of study abroad, that one. Now, from next semester, I'm showing this one to the student. Really, the student must kind of, you know, more, it should be a really part of the local community. More kind of immersion program is kind of needed. But, you know, short-term program, yes, as you mentioned, it's just kind of good memory, nice to visit the countries. And then now more and more students going to the Southeast Asian countries. It's a good thing, diversifying study abroad destination. But those students, sometimes the attitude is also the problem, Japanese students. You know, Japanese students going to the European countries, Western country, they kind of respect the people, but they're going to the Asian countries, the South Asian countries, developing countries. Sometimes they look down to those people in the community. They are not so clean, or they are not really, the system is not really organized well, something like this. So it's really difficult. So Hitotsubashi is our case, we spend a lots of time before actually student going abroad. Those preparation, orientation, study in the classroom is more important for those short-term study abroad students.
To learn to respect the diversity.
Yes, yes.
And I'm also very happy to learn from your talk that about the opportunities to be intern in the labs. We here at Western Michigan University, we tried in the past to set up the international internship for students, but we found it's very difficult. Now we learned that the Japanese labs are welcoming that's very good news for us. Maybe we can explore those opportunities.
Yes. Especially, I observed, actually, I went to the visit the Kanazawa University, National University, Kanazawa University. They have quite many students from other countries. So they're working the lab with Japanese master's students and doctoral students. It's really nice. And also, I found Hokkaido University has kind of similar programs. But it's very common in Japan. Those.
Thank you.
Mhm.